Some may think I'm going after Mr. O'Reilly. I'm not. Chastising would be a better way of putting it. Overall, I think this is a good book. I even learned a couple of things from it, but there are 3 grievous errors I found in this book. Let me address the last one first. In the afterwords, Mr. O'Reilly calls the January 6, 2021 protest at the Capitol a riot. Really? It was a very peaceful gathering, and even in the most peaceful gathering, a few will get out of hand. But for the most part, except where egged on by government plants, it was peaceful. Let me read you the one sentence in the book. Then came his fraudulent election scenario, which resulted in the January 6, 2021 riot at the Capitol. Maybe Mr. O'Reilly should learn the meaning of riot. Mr. Dugard does no better with his afterward comments. Both afterwards smeared facts with opinion, giving the opinions the weight of facts. You know better, Mr. O'Reilly. And besides Jefferson Davis, you left 2 presidents out of your book that should at least have a mention. This deserves a good talk about. Hello, anyone. I'm Scott Payne. They call me the old farmer. There are 2 presidents of the United States that is almost never, ever mentioned besides Jefferson Davis. A true man of honor, I might say. I feel these 2 men should at least get a mention in Mr. O'Reilly's book. I can understand leaving Jefferson Davis out of the book, but he deserves being mentioned along with his bio. It's an important part of history. The actions of the South could have been considered illegal, although by the Constitution it was not. The Confederacy secession had a constitution and elected officers to hold the appropriate offices. Several other countries recognize the Confederacy as a separate country. This is why a more accurate term for this conflict is war between the states. It was 2 separate countries at war. We didn't have a civil war until 1961, which was labeled race riots instead of an actual civil war. As far as I'm concerned, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you believe the event was an actual civil war, then Mr. Davis was an illegal president and should have been mentioned in your book. On the other hand, if you believe, as I do, that it was actually 2 separate countries at war, then Mr. Davis should be omitted. But this is a side issue. If you were on the TV game show Jeopardy! And the answer was the first president of the United States, likely you would ask the question, who was George Washington? You would be wrong. After the enactment of the Constitution of the United States, elections needed to be held. If the Jeopardy! Answer was the first elected president in the United States, the question would be, who was George Washington? That would be correct. But we cannot ignore Cyrus Griffin, the first president of the United States under the authority of the Constitution. He was appointed to be president until an election could be held where George Washington was elected in 1789. Mr. Griffin was not the strongest president we ever had, but his job was to hold everything together until an actual president could be elected and installed. It is very much worthwhile to read his full bio. He did much for this country and should be recognized for what he did. The second forgotten president was David Rice Atchison, a delegate from Virginia. He became president on Sunday, March 4, 1849, between the expiration of James Polk's term at noon on Sunday and the official oath of office taken by Zachary Taylor on Monday. The law at the time specified that the president was to be sworn in on March 4th, but President-elect Taylor refused to be sworn in on Sunday due to religious beliefs. Atchison had been elected president pro tempore of the Senate a couple of days previously and would therefore technically be third in line of succession behind the president and vice president. Since neither office was held by a person on that day, he was later considered by some the President of the United States for that period, though he had not taken the oath of office. Even though there are conversations about these two individuals for and against, I feel if Mr. O'Reilly is going to hold to the claim no spin, then it means no spin. Or should we start calling Mr. O'Reilly the spin doctor? Mr. O'Reilly, you know how it works, or should work. You espouse no spin so often, you might want to change your name to No Spin O'Reilly. Any student reporter knows first you state the facts, then you separate the facts from opinion by saying the equivalent of, in my opinion, and then prattle on until you're out of time. You know this. Why in the world would you call January 6th a riot? There were a few actions that were illegal, granted, and some people got hurt, granted. But overall, it was a peaceful assembly. Many of these were exacerbated through the encouragement of those peppered throughout the crowd by government agencies. But overall, it was a peaceful event. I feel strongly in the afterwords of your book, you and Mr. Dugard seriously harmed the true value of this book. And I would suggest that anyone using this book for education or research ignore the afterwords. But I will say many times, not most, I do agree with Mr. O'Reilly's opinion. The other times, I take it for what it's worth. If I were to grade this assignment without the afterwords, the book would receive an A-. With the afterwords, a C+. Thank you for watching, and please be safe. We'd sure appreciate it if you could subscribe and leave a comment. You know how YouTube behaves. They won't believe you watched a video unless you leave a comment. Also, it would help if you ring the bell and do a thumbs up. As you know, if I find a good channel, I pass it on to you. So if you think it's appropriate, it would sure help if you passed us on to your closest 10,000 friends and family. But above all, give a helping hand to someone today. It's the best gift to give. It'll make you feel good, too.
Don't forget to click like, subscribe, share, or ring the bell buttons on the Original Old Farmer channel. We enjoy reading the comments that you leave, and they do help the channel, so keep them coming. And once again, thank you for watching The Original Old Farmer.
The VFW National Home for Children, providing families of veterans and active duty military opportunities for growth and development in a nurturing community. Please consider a donation to help their children and families. I.C. Rhodes speaking.